It's Zoo the Show, the podcast.
Zoo.
The show.
The podcast.
The only podcast that comes to you straight from inside the lion's den. We're Daniel, and we are laying with the lions. It's Daniel, right? Not David.
I don't remember.
You go to Bible study.
No, we didn't do that part.
Okay. That's the best one, though. We're talking. I'm Joey.
I'm William.
I'm Dallas.
And we are talking about the TV show Zoo, episode 5, Blame It on Leo. A weird name compared with the previous ones, which were all very catchy, snappy, sort of stuff about animals.
Yeah, this one's like loosely tied to animals, but it could also be astrology. Could be a person. Who knows?
Well, we know, because we watched the episode. We're the only people.
We're the only people in the world who watch the episode.
Stay tuned, because it's revealed in the first 2 minutes of the episode.
Oh, yeah. It is.
This episode we start, we're in Alabama. A lot of the show takes place in the South, and I wonder if that has to do with where they're filming it.
Tax breaks.
Yeah, I wonder if they're in and around Atlanta, sort
Maybe.
of. They are in Alabama, waiting for Mitch to finish looking over some wolf DNA, I assume.
Some kind of thing that he needs a microscope for.
Right.
That it is very soon revealed they're just like stalking some kind of school.
Yeah.
Like, very strange.
Bizarrely, despite the fact that they have the full force of the French government behind them, they are unable to afford their own lab equipment, even the most basic, the stuff that's in like a
high school.
He's in, I think it's a college. I have to assume it's a college, at least.
Yeah, because there weren't lockers. It had to have been a college.
It's revealed partway through that they are just in a college, and Mitch is like looking over this wolf DNA. He sings a little song to explain the situation when someone asks him how the wolves were infected with the bacteria that they were infected with. He says that it came from something they ate, and then he sings the old lady who swallowed a fly. Except he starts with cat, I think, which is slightly off.
Yeah.
And then it's revealed that he's in just a school, and the periods are changing, and he has to run out to cool rock music and hop in the car like a sick teen.
Like outlaw type stuff. They run out to the car, and
I mean,
it's
so weird.
It's some real Ferris Bueller hours. Like,
I mean, what he really should have done just said he was a grad student. They'd be like, "Oh yeah, you do weird stuff all the time. That's fine."
Yeah, you're a
weirdo.
Like, this is gonna be. I mean, I think it's just like they're trying to make them seem more and more like a ragtag group. But it is wild that the French government is providing, like, nothing but travel. I guess. Yeah. Like they're able to afford plane rides, but not like just the basics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It also, like, this episode definitely seems like they're taking the group and trying to make them like a more hip, like Ocean's 11 type thing, because there's a lot of points where people like say things that are really out of character, and like it's strange.
They're still trying to figure out what it's 5 episodes in. They're trying to figure out what the sort of tone of the show is gonna be.
Yeah. God, only 5 episodes in. It feels like an eternity.
Days. They talk for a little bit. They find in the Bible that they got from Evan, our boy Evan, who we haven't seen in a little bit, has been writing in his Bible. We were right. They're basically like just going to be looking at it, finding a clue, and that's going to be what like the episode is.
Yeah.
He's been writing the name Leo Butler
on like every other page. Very strange. Very like I don't know.
William pointed out that it's Lion
Helper,
which is a very good name.
It's a very good theory. I feel like they could have trained a lion to be a lab assistant of some
We
sort.
were sort of hoping. And
we're still waiting on the turn where it's really like the animals are behind it all.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like Raiden Global.
Yeah, I think It's gonna be. We're still hoping at some point there's gonna be a turn where we start following the animal's perspective. Oh, look, an animal right now.
Kinsey,
Aw.
buddy.
Hey, don't kill me. That's my water.
It's his now.
He claimed it.
So they figure out Leo Butler is a former chemist at Raiden Global, and Jackson Oz and Jamie team up to go find him, and everybody else goes to Rio to deal with. Rio has a big bat problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not big bats, but
yes.
regular sized bats.
It's a big problem. Lots of bats, but not big bats themselves.
That'd be awesome if it was just like Mothra sized bats.
So
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still upset that it turned out to be Raiden Global.
Right.
I mean, I haven't read the books. Sure, I mean, sure it's in there, but like, there's no reason for the journalist lady to be right. And I'm really upset that they tried to make her useful.
Well,
although they did immediately make it known that she was not useful at all.
It was rough.
Oh my god.
This whole first 10 minutes of this episode, you might our excitement levels were low.
Yeah.
It was really hard to clock what was happening, and but the episode sort of built and got better and better right up until the end, really.
Yeah.
I think part of what it is too is that it's so average most of the time, and then so when there's a good scene, it just seems so much better.
We audibly cheer.
Oh my! Yeah, every time it's great. It's
So we cut to let's see. Well, first we have a brief moment on the plane with Mitch and Abraham, where Abraham's freaked out because he's on a plane for the first time since being in one that was taken down by bats, and he has probably post-traumatic stress disorder, as is sort of the common thing for this. This group just experiences traumas and then have to relive them over and over again. And
the French ladies just addressed her thing with lions.
And Mitch is... Oh, Kinsey, where are you going? Mitch decides to take his mind off of it, and it's to show how bad he is at social skills. But he basically is just let me tell you some bat facts.
And I love he does a nice, it's a nice advertisement for the Microsoft computer tablet.
Take a look.
And you can now use it in schools.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Just such a weird thing, just bat facts. Just starts railing them off. Honestly, though, the things he said, I didn't know about bats.
Yeah, I didn't know.
Did you know that their wings are just webbed toes or whatever?
Webbed fingers. That makes sense. They look like that. That could explain part... Oh no, he's coming for me.
This is very frightening after having watched an episode of Zoo.
He's staring you down.
It's not a visual medium, but Kinsey, a beautiful black cat, is standing on top of our air conditioning, which we've turned off to better our audio quality, and is just, now angrily staring out the window, but was angrily staring at me briefly.
Yeah, a good descriptor is he's if Scar was a house cat.
Mm-hmm.
He's a nice guy, though.
He's wonderful.
He's very imposing.
Good keeping.
And he's huge.
He's giant. He's a fat boy.
We go to a hotel room with Jackson Oz, and I feel like I have to say his full name every time. Jackson just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, Jackson's a place.
Jackson and Jamie are going over her. She has a spy circle now, which is dope. I'm glad that they did that, although it doesn't turn out super great. It's a nice thing to be oh yeah, a journalist would have people to go to, and she's letting him know that Leo's been blackmailing Raiden Global to make his money and donating it to nonprofits. He's wow, this is illegal how you got this information, and he's I love that. I love crime. And then an FBI agent shows up at the door, right after he's yelling.
Hey, I noticed your crimes.
Do Do you think this is set up a love triangle?
I don't know, man. I think
I
like
hope
To
not.
me, it points that way.
I think my thought process is that they're just like smashing all the different characters together into like one-on-one and scenarios, and then in season 2 they're just gonna take whatever fans seem the most excited about
Yeah.
and just run with that.
See what fan thinks about
Which
it.
is like it's gonna end up being Abraham and Jackson, like
Oh yeah. 100%.
obviously. They have the like most clear like connection. They share things. They are it's obvious. It's obvious. That's all I can say. And what the other people like fall on each other? Come on.
Yeah. That's just safety.
This FBI agent has been following them. Jackson asks him in like an idiot. Never ever let them in. Just like ask them if they have a warrant.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Although, is it the same rules for the FBI? Do you think?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because it's constitutional.
Oh yeah.
But I bet your theory later on is why he didn't ask for a warrant.
Yeah. So my theory, which I think can be said now, because it's the same guy who was at the prison.
Yeah.
And he's supposedly an FBI agent, but I think he's in Raiden Global's pocket.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be on the conspiracy theory train with Raiden Global. I thought it was a stupid thing, but apparently
it's unavoidable now. It's for sure now.
Yeah, which makes me upset because once again, they just this journalist lady is just absolutely useless. Then they try to make her useful because she's like, oh, I have a bunch of spies and hacktivists, a word that I hate. Like you could have said just like
Hacking
computer
activists.
hackers, like whatever. Like so she says all this immediately after this guy comes in like, oh yeah, we noticed that Raiden Global got hacked and it got sent to your email address. Like why would it make a fake email? Like, what are you talking about, lady?
It felt like the FBI agent was like the writers of the show being like, hey, we thought about making a female-like character just have like a competent moment without any sort of caveat, and we decided against it.
Yeah, because even the French lady is just...
Yeah.
She's messing up the whole
episode. It's...
like, everyone but... God, what's his name?
Jackson Haas?
No, not Jackson Haas. Mitchum.
Mitchell does seem most of the time to be the most competent, but that's because he has the other thing of being just the worst.
Yeah, like, even though his attitude is awful, he's the only character that has, like, a set purpose.
Like, he clearly should be on this team.
Yeah.
Like,
everyone else is just, like, they don't do anything. They don't do anything that makes sense, but it just ends up working out. Like, he's the only one who does, like, science. And it works out. Like, so there's a reason behind it working out. It's very strange.
He boiled that wolf's brain in the coffee. And that was great, as we all agree.
Yeah, that was, like, a great moment.
So he comes in and he's, like, questioning him and stuff, and he, like, backs them into a corner, and essentially they have to admit everything, which, like, they look really reluctant to do, but I don't know, man. I think at this point I would probably just tell the American government.
Yeah.
Because, like, almost none of you are French or have any sort of allegiance to the French government, and this is clearly a big problem that should have more resources.
Yeah, like, it's happened in, like, noticed in, like, 6 different places around the world at this point. One of them in America, like, they have proof.
Then we do a brief scene on the plane where they're flying back down into Rio, and they're like, oh, fuck, a lot of bats. And then it shows a picture of a lot of bats, and we all cheered. It was great.
And I think what led into it was good, too, because he's like, hey, I got another bat fact. It's worse than we thought. Like, what
Actually, that's good, because it then goes into the theme music.
It does, which... I don't know if if they changed it or if we were just bumping it, but it was good.
I think we were all just hyped off of the bat scene.
Yeah, we just had that adrenaline from seeing those bats.
We were like, oh yeah, those bats are gonna fuck shit up.
It's just every time we're just cheering for the animals.
And then we cut to it feels like another one of those. it feels like this show wanted at some point to just be a series of short, like, stories
Yeah.
Yeah, it
about,
definitely does.
like, about this happening.
Yeah.
And they, like, intercut that in with, like, the main plot. And so we're seeing a little girl who's on the floor sitting next to her dog. And I think her name is Penelope. The dog's name is Henry.
Yeah, dog something Henry.
Henry's definitely the dog. He's awesome.
And they're sitting together. And this show keeps, like... This show is very intent on teasing us with child mauling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I don't
the
think
dog
it's-
starts barking and we're all like, here it goes. Here it goes.
Like, they've done it, like, the cats were, like, next to children.
Yeah.
The kid with the tigers.
Yeah.
Like, it's a constant theme where they're just like, oh man, it could happen at any moment.
It
But then
spares
it's-
you time.
Yeah.
Because you're automatically connected.
You're
Yeah.
like, oh no, I hope that kid doesn't get mauled by that dog. But
Yeah.
and the
I
dog,
was hoping she would.
she's she's like real. She's like, oh, I wish I could go on a date with a boy with a dog, or just a date of any with any boy. And we're all like, oh, Penelope.
You're like 12.
Then
Get over yourself.
Then this dog starts barking. We're like, oh no, it's gonna maul her. But it turns out it's a seizure.
Sensing dog.
Seizure something dog, or the dog gives her seizures. One of the two. It could be either or. We don't, with this show, that could be the situation. And her parents come in and sit over her and are like, "You okay?" And then she's okay, and then that's the end of that scene.
I will say that these like side stories have been the best part so far.
They are. They're really. I think it's just because like the main narrative isn't really like giving us like an arc over just an episode. You
Yeah.
get like moments where it's like, oh, that's really cool, but there's not like I don't feel like, oh, they've finished the thing for this episode. It just
Right.
feels like we're propelling into the next thing.
Plus with like the smaller stuff, there's no like character building necessary, which I think really really helps with it, because the character building, it was one of the most exhausting parts
Oh, that was
of
awful.
the original thing.
Yeah, we don't
and
have
continues to be.
We don't have to see
Yeah.
Penelope like what's Penelope do at school? What's her like? No, she's a girl. She wants to go on dates. She has seizures, and there's a dog that might maul her. Like that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to Mobile, Alabama. They're on a pontoon boat of some kind or something. They're going through the like a swamp, and the FBI is coming with them now. He's part of the team, part of the squad.
Constantly talking about arresting people.
Ready to arrest
Which-
Leo Butler,
Yeah.
who they've found sort
Yeah.
of through he like told them where Leo Butler was. He was like, oh yeah, I'm an FBI agent with the full force of the American government behind me, so I can
I can do those things that you can't do. That you're too dumb to do.
And essentially it's them arguing with him and him being like, I'm gonna arrest him, and Jackson Oz being like, no, I need to talk to him first. And I'm the boss here because I'm Jackson Oz.
Yeah.
Do you know who my dad is?
Haven't you ever heard of my dad?
That's the energy I get from Jackson nowadays, is like, do you know who my father is?
Yeah.
Have you seen that video of him and the otter?
That was my father and his otter.
And that's really all the scene is them riding their boat. They talk for a little bit, and then we go back to Rio, where they confirm with a agent there in Rio who's like, I don't know what her position is, but she's, a person in Rio who is important.
Yeah, she's an attractive female in a business suit, so she's got to be in some kind of special service thing.
Yeah, is like she's like, the bats have no rabies, but that means we don't, like, Mitch is like, that means you don't know what's causing this. Rabies is the only thing you would think it could be, except I know, but we're not sharing that information. And then they say they're going to use insecticides to kill out the bats, but it's a banned insecticide, and I wonder if it's a real one, because James Patterson does have a real green bent to a lot of his he talks about it a lot, especially in his young adult novels Maximum Ride.
Oh my god.
Which is about a bunch of cool teens with wings.
Yeah, just grafted onto their little tiny human bodies.
Yeah, and it starts out as like an adventure and an escape, and they fight wolf people, and it's cool. And then slowly over the course of it, they realize that the real enemy is global warming.
Is that really how it ends? Like, I didn't read after the second or third one.
More or less, that's what happens.
Oh my God, James Patterson, you madman.
Which, to be fair, it's true, but it was a little bit too direct for a book. So they say they're going to use this insecticide. Mitch is like, you can't do that. And they're like, I don't know. We're going to do it.
It is a real insecticide, and it has been banned in the United States.
Nice.
Wow. Good on you, James Patterson,
teaching us.
For looking on Google for 2 minutes.
And then they look over and they're like, oh, fuck, the bats are like all congregating over one area. It looks like they hate poor people.
Yeah.
They're all the bats are like hanging over the slums, and then that's the end of that scene.
I think we also need to mention they're going to kill these bats because people are frightened.
Yeah.
There's no concrete.
The bats have not done anything yet, as we know it. Like, they aren't like covering solar panels or.
So the government is just willing to start poisoning their entire population based on the mild chance of like a public panic. They're gonna cause a real catastrophe just because these bats are just hanging around. Like,
yeah. Well, that's
very strange.
Back to Mobile, Alabama, where Jackson Oz, Chloe, and Agent Schaefer is the name of the FBI agent.
Man,
yeah,
what a dumb name.
Schaefer, who we all hate, and unfortunately he doesn't die this episode.
He's definitely a spy.
Gonna get it out of the way there. He's gonna be a villain for the rest of the episode. Like, he hasn't yet revealed himself as a villain, but we're also confident in it now that he must be. Like,
yeah, there's no other, like... Because if it was really, like, the government sending... They would send more than one guy.
Oh, yeah.
And also, he would report back to someone at some point.
He'd at least call somebody.
And they come up on this house, which has solar panels. This dude's, like, living out in the middle of nowhere.
It's a sweet house.
He's very... It's a sweet house, but it is very sparsely. It's all dark, and there's no, like, electronics or anything. It's just like a,
He's got a cage in the...
Yeah, he has a cage, which... There's a cage in the living room. Okay, first of all, Jackson Oz opens the door and is walking in, and the FBI agent is like, hey, you don't have a warrant. And Jackson Oz is like, I know. I'm not a cop. I love crime. It's essentially, he's like, no, I'm breaking and entering in front of you, a federal agent.
And they keep referring to the federal agent as a cop? Like, is that an accurate thing?
I mean...
I thought there'd be more of a severity to a federal agent than just a cop.
Oh, certainly. But, for the necessity of, like, speedy, like, statement, I think it's fine to call, like, just sort of anybody with a gun who can, like... get away with shooting a person. So they go in. They're like, "What's this cage doing here?" There's a big cage, and they ask what the cage is for, and then that is never answered.
Yeah, not once.
That question never comes around. And they do the horror movie thing of like a head moving in the foreground, like past them, and they're like, "Oh fuck, there he goes!" And they run outside and they catch him, and it looks like, it just looks like me. It just looks like me or like a dude my age, like wearing like a t-shirt and shit, and like looking a little like crazy eye, and like, and he tries to like push through like past them, and Jackson Oz
just
fucking
knocks his ass out.
Face.
Like, they're all like, we don't want to hurt you, out of nowhere, just a BAM!
Got it. And then the FBI agent is like, maybe we do want to hurt you. Boom. It's his big line.
He's definitely a spy. I hate that dude.
Yeah. Back to Rio. They're in like this like sort of like slum kind of area, like poor, area, and Abraham's like describing what it's like to be a poor is like, look, they have to make their own like electricity like situation and their own phone like situation. People adapt, and we're all like, wow, Abraham, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
But he also insults Latin America.
Yeah.
And is pretty condescending about a lot of things.
A
Well,
little bit, yeah.
Yeah, there's a weird like energy, like as though because he says he's from Africa. Like there's a weird energy because after that, later on, someone seems angry about him when he says that he's from Africa, which implies to me that is there like a feud between all of Africa and all of Latin America, which it cannot be. Surely not.
No.
Well, actually, it's tied together.
So they're in the slums and they hear gunshots and they're like, "Oh shit!" But it's just like two guys just
shooting at bats,
wildly
like into
firing
the
at
air.
bats. Which
in
I
the
mean,
middle of a public street.
Like it's the sort of thing which I could imagine a short story or a novel in which a city is overtaken by bats and slowly over the course of it, people like go more and more crazy with the screeching and like start to feel like this oppressive figure and then like eventually do just start unloading guns into the air. But this just felt fun. This just felt like
like they were just having a good time with it.
Yeah.
Get their break.
Yeah.
Until Mitch had to ruin it.
Yeah, Mitch. Mitch and Abraham see just a big line of bats hanging, and Mitch is like, I'm gonna go catch one with kitchen tongs, really. They look to be kitchen tongs.
Oh, they definitely were.
They didn't have the, like that surely cannot be the way, and I'm not, like, a vet or, like, an animal control person. That cannot be the way that you catch a live bat.
Yeah.
Those tiny little tongs. Like...
It's very dangerous for them, it would be.
Yeah, I would
Plus,
think...
you'd think it'd just, like, snap their little necks.
Yeah,
I
or
would,
their feet.
I would think that, like, just gloves, just thick gloves would be a better...
I'm pretty sure that's what they do.
And so he tries to catch the bats fuck him up, as is reasonable.
Yeah. We all knew. We were just like, oh, they're gonna fuck him up.
And then they fly past him up to the power, as though to show them that this is the important thing. The bats all just start chewing on this big power, like, grid thing.
Yeah, this, like, transformer with a bunch of, like, jerry-rigged stuff that is on it.
And
like,
they're like, why would they do that? And Mitch is like, maybe there are some bugs in there. I don't know.
Like, you know what's happening, Mitch. They're just taking it out. Like, what are you talking about?
They still...
It gets addressed a little later.
Sometimes they still don't feel like they know that the animals are smart.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like they forget that.
Well, we have, like, a built-in, like, subconscious thing where we just think that we're smarter than animals, so that'd probably be hard to get by.
Yeah. I mean, like, because, you know, if I was attacked by a bunch of cats or something on my way home from here, I wouldn't, like, assume that all cats were suddenly smart. I would just be like, oh, weird accident, I guess.
Yeah, they really ganged up on me there. Maybe I shouldn't carry around catnip in my jeans.
The power goes out, and as if on cue, a gang of...
Brazilian?
Yeah, a gang of Brazilians come out driving a big pickup truck.
Very short, all of them.
Hop out and start threatening, like, are like, you're from France? Like, start asking them where they're from. And when clearly Chloe's from France. Like, absolutely, there's no doubt about that.
And then Chloe just pulls a gun on them.
Yeah, and then they all pull guns.
And then, like, it's like a video game, man. Because, like I said, all the people are short. They're about the same height. Very strange.
Mm-hmm.
Like, very strange thing that all these Brazilian people are, like, 4 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
And then this, like, 6.5 foot tall, pretty clearly probably white guy.
Yeah,
like,
American
comes out
accent. Like,
he's the boss, and he has this really lazy Latin accent.
I'm not even sure that that's what they were going... Like, he has a weird accent.
I think he started in it, but then he gave up near the end. Because that was not...
And it just feels like we already assumed that the guy who first came up to them was the leader.
Yeah, but
you didn't have to, like...
Then this, like, end game boss fight guy comes out.
Like, 2 minutes after that, like, hey, what's up? I'm white, and therefore in charge.
You see that in shows, though. It's weird.
It's very weird.
Well, they can't imagine. Like...
They can't imagine anything.
Either that, or it's, like, this, like, weird, like, thing where they're, like... like a white person is corrupted, like somehow is corrupting like
Oh yeah,
but,
the
like
culture or whatever.
yeah, it's
weird.
it's a weird scene. Everybody has pulled guns on each other. By the way, we didn't mention when everybody pulls out the guns, Mitch does an eye roll and like same as with the fucking wolves. Wolves run past Mitch. He's like, Jesus,
this is what I gotta deal with today.
Oh man, it's like a newspaper comic like character who's just like, oh jeez.
It's like Dilbert's boss.
And Abraham pays off the gang, and it's implied that he's like. They're like doing little implications that Abraham has a dark past, which they've done before.
Yeah.
And they flat out address it shortly after this.
Yeah. And so they pay off the gang. They're like, cool. Thanks. Whatever's in your wallet is definitely enough. And Mitch picks up a dead bat off the ground.
They're like, oh man, this is just enough money to get like a really nice like college level microscope. Thanks, man.
I'm really interested in biology and actually.
I'm like an amateur scientist. You know how it is.
Back to Mobile, where they put Leo in the cage. I guess that's what the cage was for.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably for convenience.
And Leo essentially just is like, I'm not gonna talk to you about Raiden. They could kill me. It's finally revealed for sure that Raiden is like bad dudes.
Yeah.
Bad guys. And not just like, whatever. Which I'm hoping sort of that we get another scene with that CEO in his backyard, maybe for his daughter's next birthday.
But here's my thing, is ethically they're very questionable. Mm-hmm. However, they keep talking. She describes Raiden as the root of all evil earlier in this. Like, that implies they're doing it on purpose. Like, I could see, like, they're making money off of it.
Yeah.
I could see how, like, trying to cover it up for money is, like, it's selfish, yeah, but the root of all evil, like, it's...
Well, what she means is capitalism.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the metaphor I think we're...
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think to, like...
Because it doesn't make sense why they're... Like, bad guys, yeah. Evil? Like, flat out the worst thing you could be morally? I don't know.
The CEO, at least.
Yeah.
But maybe not all the people. Yeah, they've caged Leo. Leo says he doesn't know shit. They're, like, still interrogating him. Okay, have my water. Kinsey's taken my water. The animals are taking over. We go back to the little girl who has the seizures, Penelope, who's lost her dog. We didn't see the scene where the dog got lost, but it was extremely reminiscent of, I was sort of expecting the dad to get murked by a gang of, like, dogs off screen. But no, it's the daughter reveals that she's, like, dying, maybe. And the mom, like, gets a call from the dad, and the dog is going to the vet. Like, the dog is sick or hurt or something.
Got hit by a car.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so they, the mom's like, oh no. And that's that scene.
Yeah.
Picking up, where were we? Oh, back at Rio. Mitch is looking at the bat in a hotel room. Abraham leaves, and Mitch asks Chloe why earlier in the episode it was revealed that Chloe doesn't have any field experience at all. And
very subtly, which I appreciate that. But then they had to ruin the subtlety by addressing it.
By Mitch being like, hey, what the fuck?
What are we doing? Why am I the only person who knows what they're supposed to be doing?
And she's like, listen, I got it covered. And he's like, I'm not so sure. And that's the end of that scene. Oh, no. The bat comes back to life.
Yeah, before that, he's like, the eyes changed. Which at this point, that should be what they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, they know that's, like, the symptom.
I'm hoping we get a scene at some point, and this would be very, like, exposition and meta. But, like, I kind of, like, they keep showing me animals and being like, oh, look, it's the pupil. But I don't know what that animal's eye looks like normally.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what a horse looks like, generally speaking, let alone, like, when it's changed into the defiant pupil.
Yeah. I mean, because all animals are just pretty much terrifying.
Yeah. We go back to Mobile, where they've really gotten Leo to open up. He's like, you guys boiled a wolf brain in a coffee pot? And then he's like, that's brilliant.
Yeah, so even this guy, and then they kind of like all take credit for it. Like, no, that was 100% Mitch.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, you guys were like, what are you doing? This is stupid. And then it worked. Like,
It worked, but like, only... It worked, but it's a fluke that it worked in my mind. Like, there's just no way. Like anyone was like, oh, great idea, Mitch. So he's like, you boiled a wolf brain. I love that. Let me explain what Raiden's doing. They have this thing called the mother cell. It's a vector. It's a DNA thing. It makes their food and medicine and everything. It makes everything better inherently just by adding it to things. But...
which is so stupid.
It's like, it's essentially, he's like, it's like in a fantasy show where they're like, you need to explain what magic does, like how magic works. And if you just like say enough, like I just kind of am like, fine, like whatever.
Let's move past this.
It's the mother cell. I accept this.
It lets them make their food a lot faster.
Yeah,
somehow.
And their medicine
Somehow.
and their pesticides and
Like, somehow a cell, a thing that is involved with DNA, lets the process go. It's so stupid, man. And then they call it a vector, which is not that's a physics thing. It might have some kind of thing with DNA, but like...
They wouldn't put in... I don't think they put in food like that.
It's...
Although I'm all worried, it's like, we're all going to sound like morons.
Yeah.
It's all true.
there's gonna be there's some like guy out there who's like, no, James Patterson's actually like,
James Patterson has a PhD
Uh,
in neurobiology, actually, so why don't you shut your mouth?
This whole show is actually just a documentary.
Yeah.
And you guys just
This
missed
is a
it.
documentary from the future that he brought to us.
Our Lord and Savior and
James
the prophet,
Patterson?
James Patterson. What was it? Oh yeah, he's like, I have the mother cell somewhere. He's like hidden it, and he's like, he doesn't want to go get it. And then Jamie's like, what if I, a woman, go with you?
Hello.
What if I, and only I...
And he's like, oh, that's great then. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine with that. And the two dudes are like, that's weird that you're now suddenly fine with that. And she's like, this is great. And cut back over to the daughter to the mom and dad of Penelope,
Yeah.
who are talking about they're low on cash. They're trying to deal with both Penelope's medical bills, and now they have this dog thing on top of it. They talk about her real father, who she hasn't seen since she was 2, and like they're like, no, we're not contacting him. And then they're like, well, we're gonna make this work. We're not gonna let her lose her best friend. It's a very sweet moment between two parents, and then it pulls back out, and she's listening, and she's like, oh, I am a burden on my parents. And it's very sad.
Yeah, that's a very genuine, like... The side stories are just much more like...
It's because it's so clean and simple.
Yeah.
Like, you don't...
There's no, like, loose ends to tie up.
And, like, if the whole show, like, had that lack of, like, character stuff and stuff, it wouldn't make any sense.
Right.
But, like, in, like, these short bursts, it really, like, lets stuff, like... We're willing to accept a lot of stuff that's just like, oh, yeah, this, like, cliche or this stereotype feels a lot more like good when it's like a cliche and stereotype, but also animals are attacking people. And then we're back in Rio, kind of. It's sort of back and forth between Rio and Mobile with like a phone call in between Chloe and Jackson.
Yeah.
And Chloe goes out onto the balcony, takes out her cell phone, and then we get a shot of her from the front, and we just see in the background this bat, like, hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, just, like, spazzing out.
Yeah,
like she's just like, it's so quiet, Jackson. And meanwhile, you can hear this bat just wings flapping and shit. Like, it's so quiet and peaceful. And of course, we're thinking, oh, it's gonna push her off. This balcony is just gonna be stained.
So she's calling Jackson, or no, she just goes out onto the balcony in that scene, and she calls Jackson in the next scene. Because then we cut back to Mobile, where Jackson and Schaefer are sort of having a dude off. Like, it's like oh, Schaefer in like other contexts would be like the main dude of this show. So there's this sort of energy of like nah, I'm the fucking dude. No, I'm the fucking dude.
I think you're the fucking dude, but really, what you don't realize is that I am in fact the fucking dude.
I'm the guy. I'm the protagonist of this show. Like in real life. So what was it? Oh yeah, Jackson Oz is worried about sending Jamie off with this crazy man who they've just met, punched in the face, put in a cage, and
then the guy's like, "Oh, you don't gotta worry. The way he looked at her was like someone who's hasn't drank anything in like 5 years, and she's a glass of water." Like, actually, that's exactly what you should be worrying about.
That's not a good thing.
Like, that is the farthest from good you can get.
Don't you get it? He likes her, so we'll be a real gentleman.
Yeah.
He might ditch her, but he would never hurt her.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I don't...
Ditching isn't great either.
Yeah.
No.
They don't have a car.
Yeah. It's middle of nowhere, Alabama. Bad stuff happens there. They're in a bayou.
God.
They got no gate.
And then he's like, it doesn't matter, though, because I've, whatchamacallit, he like got his GPS going and is like tracking them on the dude's computer.
Meanwhile, like, the reason he's able to do that is because he syncs his files from his phone to his computer. Like, this dude's running from like an international corporation that's trying to actively kill him, and he's doing just amateur shit like that.
Yeah,
No,
he's got a
smartphone. Like,
he's got a sticky note on the inside of his laptop that has his password.
like, password Raiden sucks with an X.
Raiden sucks 19 420 69. GPS tracking them. It's Chloe and Jackson are talking on the phone, and we keep getting shots while they're talking. Like, it's a long scene of them talking on the phone, and just every like third shot is of this bat like just whipping around, screeching, and like, it is nice. There's some practical effects in the show.
Yeah.
A lot of the bats are CGI, which you would have to, because otherwise, how do you get that many bats on like a shot? But like, sometimes when it's up close, it seems like it's practical, like puppetry sort of deal. And like, this thing's really whipping around like it's a Muppet. Like,
it's going ham.
And so they're talking in the background. Jackson Oz talks about how Abraham has a bad past with Chloe a little bit, like just sort of hints at it.
Yeah.
And then they talk about like what's been going on with the two of them, like, you know, the food down in Alabama is pretty good, you know, just sort of chit chat about what's been happening. And then the bat attacks Chloe, but more specifically her phone.
Yeah, which this was cool because it led into like something that's been alluded to,
right,
but not quite stated yet.
It was really like, I didn't really think about the bats being attracted to electronics and stuff, which is what they say is happening. But it makes sense, like, looking back over the episodes, which is nice. Like,
it's
when
nice
you have
there's
that
that continuity and that they put thought into it, unlike the character interactions.
We were sort of hoping that the bat had sent a text, though.
Yeah.
Maybe, or something.
Oh, that'd been amazing.
Just like to Jackson, hopefully, and something mean, maybe.
Yeah. Like, just text Jackson Oz a picture of his little bat balls. Like, suck on us. You'll never catch us alive, you mother.
Have you heard of D's? D's.
But yeah, so then does that go straight into the scene where they're like talking about the energy?
Yeah, she's like, I gotta call you back, Jackson, bye. And then goes inside. They're talking about the energy, and they essentially just say what we just said, which is the
Yeah.
bats are being attracted to electricity,
Which
and
is
energy.
super cool.
It's very cool. There's a weird moment, and I don't know what prompted this because I've forgotten it, but where Mitch said that because he loved his ex-wife, he threw her clothes into the lawn.
Yeah.
Which was a cool thing for him to
because
do, and
they were
too.
attracted to.
Oh, attracted
yeah,
to,
Because they
yeah.
were like,
Attraction
they
is
might be
fun things.
attracted to the energy or to the technology, and then I think Abraham was like, "Well, there's a difference between attacking something and being attracted to it."
And Mitch was
And
like,
then
that's
Mitch
not
was
true.
like, "That's not true at all."
What do you
Listen to
mean?
what I did to that dumb bitch who dumped me. Like,
I'm still mad.
I'm still so angry. I don't know how to separate love from hate. That's not no. Mitch never shows any emotions besides being just
Like,
exhausted
yeah,
with the
just-
world.
just absolute derision is his only mode.
I hear that they talk about animals for a bit, which I'm sure happens. They go back to Mobile, where Jackson and the sheriff are like, maybe we have to like look over this Bible together, and so they start looking over the Bible
Oh
together.
yeah, different like paperwork and stuff.
Yeah, although the lights are out in the cabin, and
Yeah.
they never at any point think to turn them on, even though they're reading a paper book at this point.
Yeah, like so frustrating.
Little
Little
stuff.
stuff that they could fix.
but I mean, I think it was like an aesthetic choice, but like still like sort of weird
Yeah.
to watch. Back to Rio. There must have been another bat fact here because I wrote down bat fact in all caps, but I don't remember what it was. I just got real excited whenever there was a new bat fact.
Yeah, that was a good addition.
They're going back to the slums because they're going to like set up a power, like they're going to try and attract the bats
Yeah.
so they can study them.
And they tested that's what they're attracted to.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So somehow to do this, Abraham just flat out just breaks the window and steals the big truck that the gang was in.
yeah.
For some reason, the gang is not around the big truck to avoid it being stolen
Yeah. And
because they are about to gang up on
yeah, in a
Chloe.
couple of
Chloe and whatever.
scenes. But it's never. I think it must be a thing for next episode because I
It
don't think
must be.
Abraham's in this episode after he.
No,
He hasn't arrived yet.
that was the last thing. So then the
Yeah, we pop back to
Oh,
Mobile
yeah.
first with Leo and Jamie, and Leo pulls over the car and is like, "Wait here," and then gets out of the car
and just runs into the woods
just fucking
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and then Jamie very smartly reaches over and locks the door, and then like here's an owl hoot in the background. And it's a problem. I mean, I think it was just supposed to be general animal noises to make it
Yeah.
scary. But the problem is anytime there's an animal noise or something gets referenced that we can pick out or we like see an animal on screen, we all like get very certain that like that
Well,
animal's about to like, we're all like,
Mhm.
owl attack.
That's so good.
Unfortunately, no. So, there's a real nice shot at the end of that scene where it's like the car on the side of the country road, and you can see the lights way off in the distance. And
Yeah, that was a real good picturesque moment. They did a good job on that one.
cut back to the little girl is trying to sell her winter coat to pay for her dog's medicine.
Mm.
She is trying to be less of a burden on her parents, and then she's like, "I'd like to meet my dad," and her mom's like, "Oh, I don't know if that's
Yeah,
ever
they
gonna."
find a picture of her or whatever.
Yeah, and they put him on but it's not revealed who this cat is eating me. Hi, Kinsey. Aw, hey.
No.
Please don't kill me.
You're in a spot.
Meow, I might.
The dad comes back with the dog who has been fixed
Yes.
by not
I
fixed.
guess he
Oh
just had,
yeah, not
he had
fixed.
like
That's
a broken leg or something.
Yeah, he's looks great. Looks like a fine dog, but he has to take his medicine. The dad's like, "You're in charge of giving the dog his medicine."
This scene was incredible.
It was
Mhm.
sick.
So the dad puts down the medicine on like a little table.
He's like, "Just gotta make your kids happy, and then everything else falls into place."
Yeah, and then he leaves, and the mom's like looking at the picture of the dad, the real dad, and puts it beside the medicine. and it does this real nice pan over.
Real slow pan
you see that the picture is
it's Mitch.
It's Mitch holding the dog,
and we all cheer.
And then because the medicine's in the background and it's kind of out of focus, then it focuses in on the medicine and it's Braden Global,
and we all cheered a second time. It was so good. We were so excited because it's a really good. I think it's just a really good thing in a TV show where it set us up. It's done like 3 of these short stories like this already.
That have nothing to do with the main plot at all.
And that's what we assumed was happening. But then it like did a reversal on us.
Yeah.
And it's part of the main plot. And it was so good.
Yeah.
Man. I was really...
nice.
Oh, man. I got real excited.
Yeah.
I was like, good. It's a good thing we're watching the show because I actually want to see more of it after that.
That was impressive.
Back to Mobile briefly, where Jackson's like, man, they've got stuff and everything. And the sheriff, Schaefer,
FBI
that's
guy,
the word.
Schaefer.
FBI Mr. Schaefer is like, wow, they own like fucking everything. They're just like Disney. And Jackson's like, yeah, I know. It's pretty bad.
Like what? Yeah, we've been telling you this.
Yeah.
And then this is where it kind of cemented with me that he's a bad guy because there's like Jackson walks away and there's just like tiny, like a few second little shot of Schaefer like looking after him all suspiciously.
Yeah, it holds on Schaefer just a little too long, and that's how you know.
Yeah.
And he's been so cooperative with them for
he
no
really
reason.
has.
Yeah.
For the entire episode.
Yeah, because it was either he has to be a bad guy or he should have died during this episode at some point. Back over to in the car, Jamie is waiting for the guy to come back with the mother cell. She's just sort of generally being creeped out, and it was like a horror movie, like that. Like I was waiting for a dude with a hook hand to come into the foreground.
Yeah, because we were all sure that dude was just crazy anyway.
Yeah,
and it definitely built it up to make us think like, oh, he's gonna come back and murder her. But no, he just shows up
and he gives her like it's like a thing from Jurassic Park. It's just like
oh
this
my god,
tube
that was so frustrating.
With like a thing in it, like a glob of like honeycomb or something, like
something that is not a cell,
right?
That is not at a cellular level.
It's a bunch of cells. I got you a bunch. And he like hands it over to her, and then because I guess he was just hiding it somewhere in the woods.
Yeah,
that's the only, which I guess makes sense.
I don't know if it explained it poorly or we were just on the wrong page.
Right.
But we all thought that they were like breaking into a Raiden Global facility and stealing it.
Which wouldn't, because why would he want her to come with him?
Yeah.
Just to leave her in the car at that point.
Yeah. But no, it was, he took it with him when he,
right.
like, went MIA from the company. So that explained that.
Back to Rio. This is actually when I think Abraham breaks into the car.
Oh, okay.
Mitch and Chloe are like doing the stuff with the power, and then the gang members come up to them and are like, hey, what the fuck are you doing? And they're like, we're trying to deal with the bat problem.
And like the consummate professional that she is, immediately on hearing a sound behind them, doesn't even know it's the people, turns around, pulls a gun on them.
The gun's out, like, it's a great line, and I love it a lot, when Mitch is like, we're trying to fix the bat problem, and the gang leader's like, it looks like you have a different kind of bat problem. And then the other guy came in with a bat, pop Mitch right in the stomach, and we were all...
Oh, Mitch!
It was so good, and you know they like rehearsed that like a few times. Like they've done it a lot. Like that's their favorite bit. Like all the other gang members were like, "Oh, fucking these guys."
Yeah, they can only do it to like English-speaking tourists though.
They really need them to say something about bats.
Yeah,
they've been waiting.
They like lead them into it usually. They're like, now it's so easy because there's actual bats around.
Yeah. Normally they're like, "Have you noticed how it's so dark out? Like." Have you noticed, like, there's
those mammals up there.
Oh,
wow,
you mean
they're
those-
really going around up there.
You mean those bats? Like,
It could be a real issue, you know? What would you call that? A sort of like like an animal infestation? No, like a, you know.
More specific.
like a
Yeah.
bat problem. Like, but you have a bat problem. Like, what? Pow!
Like, because the other, it's either that they planned it, or the other explanation is that guy's just great at improv comedy.
Yeah.
They just bring a variety of tools for each person. We're ready.
We're waiting for you to say one of the 25 separate things we have in the trunk.
Yeah.
It's just lucky Bat was on top, because sometimes he's really digging through there to, like...
Yeah. Oh my god.
Pop back over to the car in Mobile, the final scene. It's actually... We were worried, we were talking about, like, we were worried because we thought, man, it should have ended on that shot of Mitch's picture. And, like, that was, like, the big moment. And they really, like, pulled it into another big moment right at the end.
They're good at that.
And
Although it could have kind of been, like, flipped around would probably be better, but this is still acceptable.
yeah, this is good. I think it's because this is the more violent, like, big moment.
Yeah.
Like, whereas the other thing is like, ooh, what could happen? Which is more exciting to us in a lot of ways, but this was very exciting.
Oh my god. Yeah.
They're in the car, they're talking. He realizes his GPS is on. He's like, I don't use fucking GPS. I'm off the grid.
Like, you know how easy it is to accidentally turn your GPS
Oh my god.
on a
so
smartphone?
Yeah,
Like,
you like
so you've just been hiding for 5 years, not ever touching a single button on your phone.
playing like fucking like Candy Crush Castle Rush, and it's like, we need your GPS, and you're like, wait, what? For what purpose?
Yeah.
Well, okay, I mean,
Then he like looks at the company that made Candy Crush, like, oh no,
oh no, it's
Raiden
raining.
Global.
It's been raining all along. And then he starts getting real mad. He's like shouting, like, you guys tricked me. Jamie's like, no, we didn't trick you. And they did, but she doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And then, we're seeing the shot from the back seat, and you think for sure something's gonna hit them from the front. Like,
Right.
it's the shot is like a setup shot. Like,
yeah,
you
like
see
I
it
thought they'd
before.
like run into a deer or something, or some kind of animal.
William thought owl for sure, but like, but it then cuts back up to the front, and you see the car coming in from the side, and they get T-boned hard.
It's like all happens in a single second. Really well done.
And car's flipped upside down. We're pretty sure that Leo's dead. Jamie's like hanging upside down from her seatbelt, and then you hear the Boots walk in, and we all know, like, you could tell from the gate, we were all so like, it's Evan.
And we all know when you hear the Boots walking, that's Evan and knocking.
That's Evan.
That's a boy.
And there was a moment where I think it might have been you, Doubt, where you were like, how could it possibly be Evan?
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's definitely Evan. Like, it doesn't make any sense that he was...
like my first reaction was like, it's Evan, but then I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
How did he find them?
How would he have any idea?
I can tell you, it's the GPS. They're trying to trick us.
Oh,
The
they
FBI
made us
people
think that
We're tracking them, and then that also gives them a way to find her next episode, because they were also tracking her.
Yeah, I was thinking, see, in my head, Evan, at some point, when, like, they were in the woods, maybe slipped a very small wolf into one of their pockets.
Yeah, very small wolf.
Just a very little wolf who he could then communicate with. But he comes in, he's like, where is it? And then he takes the mother cell. He doesn't quote the Bible at all, which is
just
so out of character for him.
He's on a deadline.
He's got stuff to do.
And then, end of episode. And it was good. It was a good episode. It was a really good episode.
It was good. When it showed Evan, we cheered.
The last 25 minutes of that, like the second half of that episode was like
Solid.
just bangers all the way through.
I think we need to write an article about how this is better than the last few seasons of Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
Because,
for
like,
sure.
it pulls through like these strings much better. Honestly.
Oh yeah.
Well, we'll have to see how well
That's true. The rest
how well
of the
it does
season.
at the end in the third season.
Yeah.
God, we have so many more episodes. This is exhausting.
5 episodes in.
It's I love it.
It's so hard. It takes so much more energy than you would think. to just discuss this
There's a lot to...
sometimes really amazing show.
Sometimes really good, usually pretty bad.
Yeah, usually just infuriatingly bad.
Do we have our animal attacks?
Yeah, shall we do our animal attacks?
I have mine ready if you want me to go first.
Okay, you go first.
I decided I want to see reverse bear baiting. Like, eventually the world's going to deteriorate and the animals will rule. And it becomes a Planet of the Apes situation. And so the bears have captured these humans and have squirrels fight them to death. As penance for all the bear fighting.
Oh my god. I've been sort of like, I recently reread my copy of Junji Ito's compilation of his stories, and I've been thinking a lot about just like very big, several big birds perhaps holding a sort of noose between them and just swooping down and
terrifying.
catching people by their necks and off into the sky they go.
Is that from the balloon one?
Yes.
Oh my god, that one's so creepy.
Yes.
I love Junji Ito.
We all love
Scary.
When will Zoo finally come out with a 4th season directed by Junji Ito?
Dude, apparently PT, that Silent Hill game, I knew that Guillermo del Toro had something to do with it, but I just found out yesterday that there was also input from Junji Ito.
Yeah. Do you know they're doing a Uzumaki on Adult Swim?
Yeah.
They're doing a like mini series.
Oh boy, I have it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh god.
I read it in high school because I was looking for Naruto.
I'm sure a lot of people have that.
Oh my god. But
I was like on LimeWire, like, gotta find these manga.
It's incredible. Anyway, Goldfish would be mine. Because it'd take a long time.
Right.
Like, even if there's like thousands of them, it would take a really long time.
How are you picturing someone getting into the scenario where there are that many? Like, are you picturing a pet shop, perhaps? Or...
The goldfish hold them down. To the neck.
Right.
Like, they finally get into Raiden Global, and they're like, we've got you now, Avengers. The fucking thing, the floor splits, and then they just fall into this pit of just ravenous goldfish.
No water, just flapping goldfish.
It just does.
I thought when you started that, I definitely thought you were
so
talking
gross.
about they were gonna go into the office and like there'd be a chair and it would spin around
Yeah.
and there would just be
Just
a
be a goldfish.
and like.